Monday, November 25th, Mayor and Council meeting to order. I would like to point out that Councilmember Matt Judy is not here this evening with an excused absence. The next item on the agenda is the pledge, and I believe I saw Dottie Etrust out there. Would you lead us in the pledge, Dottie? Thank you. Thank you, Dottie. Dottie, it's good to see you back in City Hall. I hope you're enjoying retirement. Next item on is the consent agenda, and I've had a request to pull number 2 off the consent agenda. So do I have a motion to approve with the exception of number 2?
Motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of number 2.
Motion by Councilmember Tyser. Do I have a second? Second by Councilmember Wilsey. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. So I will skip down to the mayor's report. And the first thing I'd like to do is the approval of the placement of 2 memorial markers on the grounds of City Hall to honor members of the Armed Forces, Blue, and family members who lost loved ones in serving our country, which is the gold. I believe we've got a number of people here this evening that would like to speak, and I would like to invite you forward. Please give us your name and address, and it's just for the record, so thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Henry. I am Susie Elkins Crow. My address is 175 Cold Creek Drive, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Roswell Garden Club about our request to place Blue and Gold Star memorial markers at City Hall. The Blue Star and Gold Star memorials are tributes to honor all who have served in the armed services and to families who have lost a loved one in service. The memorial locations must be approved by the state and National Garden Club. If the memorials are ever moved, their new placement also has to be approved. Roswell Garden Club believes placing the memorials in close proximity to the faces of war creates a synergistic statement of tribute and honor. We believe the markers should be placed as pictured in the Faces of War location mock-up presented at the November 2nd administrative meeting, not 2 to 3 feet farther away from the Faces of War. This belief is shared by Gold Star mother Susan Price, whose son, Roswell High graduate Marine Gunnery Sergeant Aaron Kennefick, was killed in Afghanistan. Ms. Price said the following about the markers. Showing respect to our nation's heroes is the very best we can do as a community, a citizen, and a nation. Let this symbol of honor and acknowledgement serve as an example to our future youth. She goes on to say, placing the gold and Blue Star memorials near the Faces of War memorial not only preserves the dignity and honor of our great warriors, yet it resuscitates joy to our families and maintains the integrity of a timeless history earned by the valiant souls of Roswell Georgians. We at Roswell Garden Club believe placing the memorials closer to the Faces of War says we honor you, we remember you, and we do not forget. Help us make this statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Please come forward.
Mayor Henry and Council, my name is Elwin Gassert. I'm at 10065 Anaheim Drive, Johns Creek, Georgia. I represent the Roswell Memorial Day Committee and the Roswell Rotary Club in support of the Roswell Garden Club placement of the Faces of War Memorial, the 2 markers that we've just discussed. The placement is important for several reasons. These markers also, not only like the Faces of War Memorial, they bring closure to people. They bring closure to the families. The marker that is out there right now, the Faces of War Memorial, was established by 12 men and women in honor of the people that they served with in Vietnam. One of those gentlemen is sitting behind me tonight. His name is George Nelson. George Nelson is in the patriotic shirt. He and Wes McCann, who is also chairman of that committee of the Faces of War Memorial, are in 100% support of the placement of the two markers. Those markers, according to the position of the Garden Club, Rotary, and the Memorial Day Committee, to be placed in about 4 feet from the end of the current shrubbery that's out there right now. Those markers that you had the pleasure of looking at for a couple of weeks were placed there so that you could see, even at night, they would be lit. They would help people to come up and read them. They would also cut down on any crime or vandalism. If you moved them further out, then you would be required probably to add more lighting out there for security. So we're thinking that this accomplishes several things by moving them in 4 feet from the end of the shrubbery. I would gratefully appreciate you considering the placement of the markers at the position that the Roswell Garden Club has called for. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak?
Give them your name and your address.
My name is George Nelson. I'm one of the 12 original members that put together the great memorial that exists here in Roswell. Is Wes McCann here tonight? I'm blind, so bear with me. No? Well, I'm going to speak for Wes and the other 10 guys. When the idea came up to build this memorial, Hug Mayberry was the mayor. And we did everything possible, including not accepting any political donations to build a memorial, because we didn't want any outside interference of politicians coming in and telling us what we had to live up to and what we had to do. The selection of the spot for that memorial was on a Sunday afternoon, and the city council said, you guys go out and choose the spot where you want the memorial to be. We went out and walked the grounds, put a spade in the ground, and that was the spot where the memorial is today. Now, as we went through the construction of the memorial, the city council was always there, but they never, ever interfered with anything that we wanted to do. And when I say interfere, I don't mean that in a negative way. All I'm telling you is, when we did this, we kept all politics out of it. It was our baby. And we had the support from the city council that said, as long as you are within the rules and regulations, you do it the way you want it and we'll approve it. And I guess my question, the way I understand this, of moving these two memorials 2 or 3 feet, my question is, what is the significance of making that movement? Please tell me why they need to be moved 2 or 3 feet if all the people, including the Rotary Club, I hope you all understand, the Rotary Club has been putting on the Roswell Memorial Day ceremony since 1997. They put as much as $30,000 a year into that program. They have supported everything we did. Tom Price was one of the key members that also supported us along the way. So my question to you is, unless you really, really have something that makes sense, other than, well, the politicians told us how we had to do it. If that's your only reason for doing it, then I hope you'll understand that every veteran that's been involved with this, every veteran that would come to see this, would not appreciate the political side getting involved over 2 or 3 feet. I want you, and I request, that you approve just the way Elwyn has laid it out to you, because that's the way the veterans want it. And I'll tell you another thing. I'm in the Military Hall of Fame. So I'm not talking without a lot of experience. So I appreciate it if you will unanimously vote to leave it where it is and support exactly what all these great people have not only done for the memorial, but what they do for Roswell. I lived here for 16 years. I guess I didn't give you my address. It's 140 Highlands Drive, Woodstock, Georgia. So I'm coming to you and saying, I want you to reconsider. I want you to make sure that those memorials stay where they are, because I really believe, and don't get offended, I think there are people with more experience than you folks are about making this decision should get what they're asking for. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak? Seeing no one approach, I'm going to ask Mr. Michael Fisher to come forward, and I apologize to everyone in the audience. I misunderstood that you all were coming to support the placement of the memorials. I did not understand when the request was made that you all did not approve of the placement that was approved in committee. So, Mr. Fisher, if you would present this and give us just an outline of what happened in committee, and then I'd like to ask Mr. Halsey, because a committee decision was made and a recommendation moving forward, what type of motion we would need to make this evening. So, Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor Henry. At the committee meeting, we discussed the placement. We put some mocked-up signs, full-size signs out there. We met with some of the people that had spoken tonight. And the layout, let's see if I can point this out, is why I have this up here. So the layout is just even with the landscape right here. If you went straight back, it's about 5 feet. I think Mr. Gasser was thinking about 4 or 5 feet. Well, I think we measured out about 5 feet from the edge of the walkway to the sign, so that each one of these 2 signs is even with the edge of the Faces of War Memorial as a whole. These walls come out here on an angle. Then there's another brick wall that's inside the landscaping right here, and then the shrubs, there's a row in the back, and this is actually a row on the front side of the walkway. But on the row on the back, the signs go straight back. So they're about 11 feet straight off of this pillar to go straight out would be the edge of the landscape. So that's what we presented at committee meeting that we came back with. And then in the discussion of the committee meeting, and it's not due to not having the signs with the Faces of War Memorial. It's due to the respect of the Faces of War Memorial to have that clean, that view ship, that looking at the memorial, and maybe having the signs just a little bit farther away so that if you want to just take in the Faces of War Memorial, you'll see that a little more clearly and not have the signs there. The committee made a recommendation, and I do apologize for the quality. I know this one is nothing like what the other one was. But I think it'll show the point. So the committee suggested moving each one of those signs out 2 more feet. So we went back and looked at the signs, and from the edge of the landscape, the shrubbery that came out, we went out 2 more feet and went back the same distance and just put the signs there. And that's what you see in this picture, so that when you're looking at the Faces of War, you kind of can take it in as a whole with the landscaping that is there, or you can step back and look at it, and both of the Blue Star and the Gold Star Memorial are there. So that's kind of where we're at tonight. This is what committee, this was the direction we left with that committee, was to take what we had originally and move each one about 2 more feet, which puts them just outside of the landscaping on each side.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Does council have any questions for Mr. Fisher? Councilmember Tyser, you're
Yeah,
looking conflicted.
Mr. Fisher, can you
Yes, sir.
put that back up a second?
Sure. The 2-foot one?
Yeah. My understanding out of committee, I guess I'm a little surprised we moved them out. I thought they were moving them over, kind of following that arc.
Say that again.
So they stayed just behind the bushes, but closer to us. So I'm not sure that really matters.
Closer in this way?
Yeah,
Well, we wanted to keep it a certain distance off the walkway too, though, so we left it the same distance off the walkway. We just moved them out 2 feet.
I see, because the walkway is in the way.
Correct.
I mean, I have no objection to moving them to the original place if that's a process that we could do tonight.
Additional questions from council? Yes, Councilmember Palermo?
Thank you, Mayor Henry. Yeah, I'd say I support tonight either moving them back to the original recommended location. I think that's something that makes sense to me. Or I would support a very short term, maybe 2-week deferral, to make sure staff has all their ducks in a row. But ultimately, the way I vote, I'll be looking for recommendations from really the community and those that have been so involved with all this. So I'll be supporting one of those 2 things, either the original placement or a 2-week deferral to work with the community and make sure that it's really the right spot here.
Thank you, Councilmember Palermo. One thing that I'm a little concerned about is when you refer to moving it back to the original location, I don't know what the original location is anymore because there have been so many locations for it. So I think we'd probably need to clarify.
Mayor Henry,
Yes.
just to point out, this location that I have up here now, the one where we put the mocked up signs was the locations when we met with the community group out there to see where it would go. So I think that may be what the original location Councilor Palermo was speaking of, but we all met out there, and that's where we put them when we were with the committee, the community group that was out there. And then this other one was after our committee meeting where we moved them 2 more feet out just to sort of get it outside the viewscape. So my thought would be this would be what would be considered the original position.
Okay, well, Mr. Halsey, I'm going to need some advice from you because we've got, obviously, like I said, I did not see this coming, but there's some contentious viewpoints here. So I want to make sure that, for the record, we have exactly where these are going to be located and that no one will come back later and say, oh, no, that wasn't our understanding, or that wasn't my understanding. So, Mr. Halsey, what type of motion would we have to make this evening to pin that down?
Council can disregard the committee recommendation, and anyone can make a motion to locate the memorials in the position that Mr. Fisher has identified as the original, which is the photo now showing. If someone makes that motion, then that's where they would go.
Thank you, Mr. Halsey. Councilmember Wilsey.
Yes, first of all, I'd just like to say thank you to Roswell Garden Club for bringing this initiative forward and for the efforts in recognizing the veterans and their families who have served our country. I think at this point, I would also support a deferral for 2 weeks to actually sit down with the Garden Club members and actually visit the site so that we can determine exactly, what location we are talking about and kind of talk through some of the the issues that have surfaced tonight. So again, I would very much appreciate being able to actually meet with you and walk the site before making a firm decision.
And Mr. Fisher, could you also go through and explain again the dedication of real estate that is involved here?
So because it's memorials, the word that we got when we were looking at these is once they're up, they can't be moved. If they are in proximity of the Faces of War Memorial, because it is the main kind of piece that's there, if the Faces of War Memorial ever moved, those memorials could move with it.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Yes, Councilmember Tizer.
Just one more question. The placement in this picture,
Yes,
is that the same that we had mock-ups?
that is the mock-ups.
So
This is
those-
it. This is the ones we put in the ground out there
Yeah,
and
so-
took pictures of it.
Sorry, so those holes are kind of in the ground. You know where those places are?
We had them cross-referenced. It's 5 feet off of the curb, and it was 10 feet from you can't see it in the picture, but where the brick wall is in the shrubs, there's actually a corner piece, and we went off of that 10 feet. So it's 5 feet off the curb and 10 feet off that corner. I mean, we can put them back. We know where they went.
Right, so it's not, it shouldn't be confusing to you if there were a motion tonight to put them in the position in this picture, which would be 5 foot off.
Correct.
And 10 foot off. the
Straight
corner.
along the edge of the landscaping, 5 feet back off of the sidewalk, and then from the corner of the little brick, it was 10 feet over.
Thank you.
Additional questions from council? Yes, Councilmember Zapata.
So, I mean, does anybody oppose to what this look on the picture? Did it look bad, or if it's okay, like how the picture look, how everything is shown here, then we can make a motion to approve as is on this picture. I don't know what is I mean, if this doesn't look good, then, well, we can defer this item and take a look again and see, but if the picture here looks good, all the, the places that there are the monuments, then I don't see why it had to be deferred.
Thank you, Councilmember Zapata. Additional comments from council? I will entertain a motion.
Okay, so,
Excuse me?
oh, sorry.
Councilmember Tizer.
Sorry, I thought I saw you look over this way. So I guess I was a bit confused as to what the placement would be. But after listening to Mr. Nelson and some of the rest of the folks that have been here, we've seen the markers in these positions. So I'm not sure, as Councilmember Zapata just said, what a deferral would do. So, I would make the motion that we approve the placement of the markers as in the picture, which is 10 feet and 7 feet from the corners.
5 feet from the sidewalk directly behind the edge of the landscape, and it's 10-something off of that corner. We have it written down in building op.
As Mr. Fisher has said.
We've got a motion from Councilmember Tizer. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Zapata. All those in favor, please raise your hands, and it passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. The next item on the agenda is a proclamation for Giving Tuesday. And whereas, I lost my glasses. Where are my glasses? I lost them. Oh, here. Gary took them. Whereas Giving Tuesday, a celebration of philanthropy and volunteerism, promotes the idea of nationwide day of giving on the Tuesday following Thanksgiving. And whereas this observance follows the widely recognized shopping days of Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and Cyber Monday, and encourages people to contribute in some meaningful way to their favorite charitable causes and organizations. And whereas the one-day total amount of monetary donations given by individuals and organizations in 2018 exceeded $380 million, according to a report by GivingTuesday.org. This was in addition to countless volunteer hours, in-kind donations, and countless acts of kindness. And whereas it is estimated that 1/3 of each year's charitable gifts are given in or near December. Giving Tuesday is an opportunity to encourage citizens to serve others throughout the holiday season. And whereas the City of Roswell celebrates all citizens who choose to work together in the spirit of helping others, this Giving Tuesday serves as a reminder to share commitments, rally for favorite causes, build a stronger community, and think of others' needs. And whereas we recognize the tremendous impact of philanthropy, volunteerism, and community service throughout Roswell and all of North Fulton, and encourage all residents to support our nonprofit partners on Giving Tuesday and throughout the year. Now, therefore, I, Lori Henry, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Roswell, Georgia, do hereby proclaim December 3rd, 2019 as Giving Tuesday, and call upon all citizens to join together to give back to the community in any way that is personally meaningful. Mr. Blitch.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Mayor, City Council. One way to kickstart the joyous season of giving is to participate in Giving Tuesday. The Global Day of Giving is the first Tuesday after Thanksgiving. Social media campaigns have helped amplify year-end fundraising efforts for nonprofits and charities ever since it was created. Roswell, on behalf of our nonprofit partners, this November, we have made 18 posts which have reached a total of 31,406 persons so far with our campaign. Roswell is home to many nonprofits working to help our community. We are very fortunate to live and work in a city that supports the nonprofit sector and encourages our resident donors to give their time, talent, and treasure. So as we say, give well, Roswell, on December 3rd and every day. Thank you very much. And I have a couple of nonprofits here that would like to have a photo with the council.
Terrific. Thank you, Mr. Blitch. If you'll join us up here for a picture.
Right. Thank you all. Give well, Roswell.
I would like to thank our nonprofits, but I'd also like to thank Danny Blitch, because not only is he known as our $1 Million Man in the grant department, but this was his initiative, and I think it's just so important that he's providing a valuable resource to our nonprofits, and I don't know if they could do it without you, Danny. So thank you. The next item on the agenda is reading of a proclamation for Rick Case Bikes for Kids Month. Whereas, for 37 years now, Rita and Rick Case have been instrumental in supporting the gift of donations for underprivileged children by providing bicycles during the holiday season. And whereas, starting the Rick Case Bikes for Kids program 38 years ago, Rita and Rick Case initiated a program that has not only benefited children in need, but has provided an annual outlet for the community to easily step up and help by donating new or used bicycles that you might have in your garage, which are then distributed to grateful children and families. And whereas hundreds of bicycles are collected and distributed each year in conjunction with the Boys and Girls Clubs and other local charities, providing an additional layer of community involvement and charitable education as the children learn the true meaning of it's better to give than to receive. And whereas the recipients are delighted children whose holiday is lifted by the generous benevolence of the community and all those involved in Rick Case Bikes for Kids program. And whereas the City of Roswell would like to honor this commitment to the community shown by Rick Case Automotive Group, whose corporate philosophy is to contribute to the communities in which they do business, including helping children in need through their participation and contribution to Boys and Girls Clubs, local charities, and their national Rick Case Bikes for Kids program. Now therefore I, Lori Henry, the mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim December 2019 as Rick Case Bike for Kids Month in the City of Roswell and encourage those in our community to donate a used or new bicycle for our children in need in our community to not only share the holiday spirit, but to promote a healthy outdoor lifestyle in our bicycle-friendly community. Do we have anyone that can come forward and talk about this? Thank you so much.
Good evening, Mayor. This is our 38th annual Bikes for Kids, and every year we do collect hundreds of bicycles, and we have a large event over in our Duluth location where we invite the kids from the Boys and Girls Clubs to come and pick out their bikes. We are accepting donations, new and used bikes. As long as it's got 2 wheels and a frame, we'll take it. So up until the 20th, we're accepting any donations and would love to have as many as possible from the community.
Well, thank you all for everything that you're doing. We would love to have a picture with you if you wouldn't mind coming forward.
Absolutely.
Case. The next item under the mayor's report is Keep Roswell Beautiful Annual Report Summary for the period July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor Henry, members of council. My name is Vicki Colbreth, and I'm the Executive Director of Keep Roswell Beautiful, and I'm excited to present a summary of our annual report from July 2018 through June 2019. But first, I'd like to highlight some of the accomplishments that we've had over that year. So last November, Keep Roswell Beautiful received a grant from Keep America Beautiful and Philip Morris to install 9 cigarette butt receptacles along Canton Street and East Alley. And in that past year, the receptacles have definitely been utilized, keeping hundreds, if not thousands, of cigarette butts out of the environment and keeping our downtown area looking clean. In November, we also celebrated America Recycles Month by collecting textiles at the Roswell Recycling Center to be donated to the Atlanta Humane Society. In addition, we held a textile collection contest with the local schools, and in total, we collected 1,866 pounds of blankets and towels for donation to the Humane Society. At our Bring One for the Chipper Christmas Tree Collection event in January, we collected the most trees per capita for the 2nd year in a row out of all the participating Keep Georgia Beautiful affiliates. This past April, we hosted our first Earth Month event at Riverside Park, which was focused on inspiring and educating the community about concrete actions we can take to protect our natural resources. Approximately 600 people attended our exhibitor and education areas and then walked with us in our Twilight Lantern Parade. And since this is the time of year that we express thanks, I'd like to give a huge thank you to our Keep Roswell Beautiful volunteers who over the past year have collected over 400 bags of litter from local roads, marked nearly 300 storm drains to educate about stormwater pollution, and pulled 500 pounds of trash out of the Chattahoochee River and nearby streams during our annual Rivers Alive cleanup. All in all, our volunteers donated about $43,000 worth of time and service, giving Keep Roswell Beautiful an annual cost-benefit ratio of $9.05 for each dollar spent. So I'd like to speak for myself and our board of directors when I say thank you to all of you for your continued support of Keep Roswell Beautiful.
Let's hear it for Keep Roswell Beautiful. I would like to thank everyone for their hard work. It's a very, very valuable resource here in the city of Roswell. The next item on the agenda is Administration and Finance Department. Council Member Zapata.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 4, approval of the FY 2020 mid-year budget amendment.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. Each year we go through a mid-year budget amendment process whereby departments submit their mid-year request to the finance department. And we generally have 2 basic criteria for that. The first one is the time constraint, wherein, if there is a particular project that needs immediate attention, that needs to get done, so departments submit a request for that. And any other unanticipated items that did not come up during the annual budget process, those are requested as part of mid-year. Staff reviews the available funding for these mid-year budget requests, and then the department proposals are reviewed with the mayor, and then the recommendations are presented to council. Each of these requests is aligned with one or more critical success factors that mayor and council had developed over the past year. We'll start with the general fund operating requests. The first item that we have here is the recognition of $63,115 in revenue, which is Alphareta's share, the 50% share for the RAPSTIC expenses. You will see the expense in the further slides. The second item we have is the recognition of the additional insurance premium tax revenue. So this particular revenue item has come in higher than what we had budgeted during the budget process, which is really good. So that's $225,135. The next item that we have is for correction of indirect cost revenues in the amount of $36,447. During the budget process, in the approved budget, there was an error in the calculation of the indirect cost revenue, so we are asking for that amount to be reduced by $36,447. So the total revenue recognition as part of this mid-year budget process is $251,803. Moving on to the operating request expenditure adjustments that we have this year. The first one is to reduce the contingency for building and code enforcement transition in the amount of $178,642. So in the FY 2020 approved budget, we had budgeted 1 month's worth of expenditures for contracted building inspection and code enforcement services. However, the transition period was completed sooner than expected, and this is the savings that we are seeing from that. Also, during the FY 2020 budget process, there was the code enforcement travel expenses of $2,000, which was not submitted as an expense as part of the training that was associated with the staff that would be going for that. So that was $2,000. And then there was the training for boards and commissions in the amount of $12,000 requested by Community Development Department. This will provide training for 50 people on the boards and commissions. And then the fourth request we have is for downtown parking lot expenses in the amount of $17,300. So currently we have a lot of these parking lot expenses spread over several accounts within the general fund and the solid waste fund. And this particular request is to consolidate all of those expenses. So the $17,300 that you see here is, so we have the solid waste fund expenses that we would like to budget within the general fund. So this is that amount that you're seeing here. So the total general fund operating expenditure adjustments is a negative $147,342 because of the savings that you saw in the community development transition. Moving on to the general fund capital request, the first one that we have is for the electric vehicle charging station replacement in the amount of $40,000. So we currently have 4 charging stations here at City of Roswell, 2 here at City Hall, 1 at the East Roswell Park, and another one at the Roswell Area Park. These stations were manufactured by General Electric, which is no longer in this business. And ChargePoint has maintained these charging stations for us. But starting December 31 of this particular year, these electric vehicle charging stations will no longer be maintained or supported by ChargePoint. Hence, we have to replace them. And that is why the department is requesting $40,000 for that. The second capital request that we have is the LED lighting retrofit program for City Hall in the amount of $120,000. This particular request was submitted during the FY 2020 budget process, and at that time, Mayor and Council had suggested that this be brought back at mid-year. So the department has brought it back at mid-year, and this is what they are requesting now. The third item that we have is a $33,000 request for the Physical Activity Center dance floor replacement. So the dance floor here at PAC is in bad shape right now. The subfloors are really damaged, and it is a safety hazard for the participants. Hence, the department is requesting $33,000 to repair those dance floors. Recreation and Parks Department is also requesting $100,000 for the playground replacement at Roswell Area Park. This is the playground for the children aged between 2 and 12 years. So they had actually requested this again as part of the FY 2020 budget process, but they were only funded partially. So this is the balance amount that was unfunded during the budget process. The department is also requesting $60,000 for the Roswell Area Park Pool infrastructure repairs. So over the summer, it came to the notice of the department that there was a leak in the pool, and that has been identified, and the cost of fixing that leak is going to be $60,000, and this is what the department is requesting here. Rec and Parks is also requesting $15,000 for the Arts Center West septic field line replacement. And now this particular, the pipes here are about over 30 years old, and they need to be replaced since the roots from the trees and the debris is getting into the pipes, and it has damaged them, and that needs immediate fixing, so that's going to cost $15,000. The department is also requesting another $90,000 for the Big Creek Greenway boardwalk repair. This particular boardwalk was damaged in 2009 during the flooding, and the contractors who came out to estimate the cost said that it would cost over $500,000. But the department is requesting the $90,000 just to fix a certain portion of the boardwalk which needs immediate repair, and that's what this request is for. Moving on with the general fund capital request, the next one is a $105,000 request from Recreation and Parks for landscape improvement at Oxbow Road, Roswell Area Park, City Hall, and Groveway. These projects are all going on right now. They're all underway, and the department is requesting this funding to complete those projects. The next one is for the marketing plan for the River Parks Master Plan in the amount of $68,000. So right now, the department was funded at $282,000 for the master plan design during the FY 2020 budget process. They are asking for the $68,000 for the marketing plan because they expect to start that sometime in the spring. Hence, they need that money at this time. As Recreation and Parks is also requesting a transfer of $75,000 from the Old Mill trail wall repair. So this particular transfer is going to happen from the Hotel Motel Trail money. That's already been approved by a mayor and council. It is just a transfer of funds that the department is requesting for that project. And then the next item that you see is the wrapstick repair, the roof repair of $126,230. This particular amount is over and above the reimbursement that we are getting from the insurance company. And of course, Alfreda will be reimbursing us 50% of that amount. The next request here is from the Transportation Department in the amount of $50,000. And this is for the Connected Vehicle Smart Signal Project. Now, this is an initiative being led by GDOT to create a network of smarter traffic signals throughout the Metro Atlanta region. And City of Roswell has the opportunity to upgrade 65 traffic signals as part of this initiative by paying only 20% of the cost. The remaining 80% will be funded by the Atlanta Regional Commission. The $50,000 being requested is to upgrade 25 of those 65 traffic signals in 2020, and the remaining 40 will be done in 2021 in phase 2, and the department will request funding for that at that time. And also, if the city wants to be part of this initiative, GDOT is requesting funding and an MOU by March 2020. Hence, the department is asking for the $50,000 as part of the mid-year budget amendment process. The next one that we have is a request again from the Transportation Department in the amount of $26,500 for the asphalt planer equipment. This is an attachment that comes as part of the Bobcat, which is used for our road resurfacing. So the department is requesting this $26,500 since the current equipment that they have is no longer operational. It needs a lot of repairs and it's no longer functional. And then we have another request from the Transportation Department in the amount of $50,000. Now, this was part of the IGA with the city of Alpharetta. So when we had done the budget amendment in 2018, we had neglected to appropriate the funds for the Rucker Road T-Splosh project, and this is what we are requesting at this time. So this is just an appropriation of those funds that we had received at that time. This slide here now provides a summary of the general fund mid-year budget request and the impact that it has on the fund balance. So the revenue adjustments total $251,803. And then we have the general fund operating expenditure adjustments, a negative amount of $147,342. So that would leave us with a funding of $399,145. And then we estimate the FY 2020 available fund balance over reserve by policy to be approximately $5 million. The total general fund capital expenditure adjustments for mid-year are at $883,730. So with that, we would be left with a remaining fund balance over reserve by policy of a little over $4.1 million. So that was the general fund for you. Moving on to the other funds, we have the water fund. So they are requesting a replacement of a water service vehicle in the amount of $83,903. So this was part of a vehicle that is being replaced this particular year, and they had budgeted it at a certain amount, but they need a bigger vehicle than what is going to be replaced at this time. So the bigger vehicle is going to cost an additional $83,903 in addition to the $50,000 that's already budgeted. Hence, the department is requesting this at this time. And the fund balance right now is estimated at $500,000 in the water fund. And with this particular request, that fund balance will come down to $416,097. The stormwater fund has one request here, and that is for the purchase of a trench compactor equipment in the amount of $31,000. The revenue recognition that you see above that for $46,600 is for the trade-in value for the stormwater excavator that was purchased earlier this year. So they were approved at $170,000 for that particular equipment, but they got it cheaper as they traded in the older one for that new one. And the department is requesting to use the savings from that towards buying the trench compactor equipment. And the trench compactor equipment right now is being rented, and they have to pay a lot of money because I think they're renting it at least once a month right now. So buying this particular equipment will help, save costs save the cost on rent. Moving on to the Rec Participation Fund, there is only one request here, and that is for the Recreation Program Management Software in the amount of $30,000. We have a fund balance right now estimated at $500,000, and with that particular request for the software, it will bring the fund balance down to $470,000. Finally, moving on to the Fleet Services Fund. So here, during the FY 2020 budget process, we had budgeted for the Fleet Services Fund, but the city's audit firm came back and recommended a few changes to the way we account for the leased vehicles that we are leasing from Enterprise. So because of the changes we made, they have suggested that we move this, make an accounting adjustment and move this funding back into the Capital Projects Fund. So that is what you see here. There is no impact on the budget. It is just an accounting adjustment. So the net impact of this will be zero. Moving on to the Capital Projects Fund. Here again, the first item that you see is what you saw on the previous slide, which is where we are moving the vehicle replacement budget from the Fleet Fund to the Capital Projects Fund. And then the next item that you see is the shared stormwater agreement revenue. So this is what Mayor and Council had approved, a shared stormwater agreement with Fulton County for the library at Norcross Street. And this is the $54,000 we would be getting as part of that, which would go into the shared stormwater account. So that is a total Capital Projects Fund revenue adjustments of $1.1 million. And then the expenditure adjustments that you see are, again, related to those, so it's the same thing again. So the net impact in the Capital Projects Fund would be zero. The final fund that we have here is the Risk and Liability Fund. There's only one adjustment that we are requesting here, and that is to correct the risk fund revenues to reduce them by $172,993, as during the budget process, we had estimated them higher than what they would come in at, and hence we are requesting that to be adjusted. That is all I have for the mid-year budget amendment request from the departments this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for staff? Yes, Councilmember Zapata.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. Do you have any page that show all that is new expenditure that was not approved on the 2020 budget, and also the other one that show any items that have been approved, but now you need more funds to cover this already approved expenditure? So we have an idea of what is new that was not approved on the 2020 budget, and what is that was approved, but you need more funds for these items. Do you have a page that will summarize all this for us?
Not a summary, sir, but it's like a list of all the requests, but there's a column in there that shows which are new and which are unfunded. So I'll just put that up here. So this is the general fund operating expenses that you see here on the first page. So on that column here, so the N that you see represents any new request that's been submitted. The A represents any administrative requests. And I can flip the pages if you like to move on to show which ones were unfunded during the budget process but which have been requested now as part of mid-year.
So you have here the new.
Yes, sir, the N
the
represents the
and
new
the A you
request.
said is?
Administrative, any administrative request, so that's part of what, yeah, those are just accounting adjustments from our side, from the finance department. Those are not requests from the departments.
Okay, but have been approved or no on the original budget?
No, sir, those are just accounting adjustments. As I said, they were not
No
part.
impact, have no financial impact, with just adjustment from accounts, or?
Some of them will have financial impacts because we're recognizing additional revenue. But I guess when we say administrative, that's what we mean, recognizing additional revenue, accounting adjustments that really don't have an impact, some corrections that we found as we went through the budget process, or as we went through the approved budget. So these aren't requests for like a new equipment or new projects or anything like that, just more administrative type requests.
Okay.
Are you finished, Councilmember Zapata?
Yeah, if this is all they have to present regarding new,
There are some more pages, sir, if you'd like.
okay.
The capital fund request, the one-time capital request that you see here. So the U, the ones that are denoted as U, are the ones that were unfunded during the budget process and have been requested now during the mid-year.
Okay. Because I don't see this on the packet we have.
This
See the
list was,
same items, numbers, but I don't see the NUA.
I think there was a mistake on our part. This didn't make it into the packet, but this was in the email that was sent the day after the committee meeting. That email had the Ns and the Us listed for each item on there, but somehow it didn't make it into the packet. I
And this is what
apologize.
goes to the public, or what the public will have this, what you're showing today on the screen?
The intent was for this to be public, for it to be in the packet, but there was, I think the wrong file got attached, so all the Ns and Us were left off of that list.
So the public doesn't have this today, right this minute?
Right, just
Other
what we're
than the
showing
screen.
right now.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions for staff from council? Councilmember Palermo.
Thank you, Mayor Henry. So, Harpreet, again, great job, and to the entire finance department, great job putting this all together, and I do appreciate that. As I expressed at committee, my concern is bigger picture, and the fact that I'd like to see more level of detail when we go through this. And what I say, actually, I'm not putting that on staff. So staff has provided a good amount of detail, not only in the graph, but also the descriptions as well. So when I say the more level of detail, I'm actually talking about, I believe this council needs to have more discussion at a greater detail, because frankly, I think there's certain aspects where it seems to me like it is just that urgent priority, and I think, RAPSTIC is a great example of that. I completely understand why that needs to be part of a mid-year budget, but for other aspects, it seems to me like there's some nice-to-haves as well. And again, the example that I believe I brought up in committee that I'll bring up again just deals with, for example, landscape improvements. So the fact that, we have here over $105,000 landscape improvements, and I realize some, if not all of these, have been voted on by this council. I know at least one aspect here I voted against, and I was dissenting view. And it all comes down to, of course, I want to really increase the beautiful landscape everywhere, including City Hall. But we do have limited funds, and I feel, of course, we have to be responsible with the with tax dollars, and I didn't see that as a competing priority with some other opportunities. And so that's where my hesitation is. So I have two concerns. One is with the overall process to make sure that this council is having a full holistic discussion on kind of, okay, here's the opportunities and where should this money be allocated. And then number two, at a more granular level, an example I give is, for example, this six-figure amount towards landscape improvements, and especially one concern I had regarding the City Hall one. I just feel that's something that should be competing with all full-year budget requests and not just being kind of pushed through at the mid-year budget. And not to say anybody's aggressively pushing it through, but just the fact there's not that full holistic discussion on what the opportunities are. So that's where my concerns lay tonight.
Thank you. Additional comments, questions? Yes, Councilmember Zapata.
Thank you, Mayor. So, so if we defer this item to the last meeting of the year, there will be any problems to operate the city, or is something that we can wait until we're missing today 2 council members to vote in this? So my question is, if we defer to the last meeting of the year, there would be any problem to keep operating the city at the level of service that we expect?
No, I don't believe there's anything that's extremely pressing that needs to be approved tonight.
Thank you.
I have a question. If you're interested in deferring this for further discussion, when do you propose that further discussion takes place? At the next council meeting? Is there certain information that you would like between now and then? Or would you like the opportunity to meet with staff? What's your pleasure?
So, a couple of things. One, I suggest to get the last meeting of the year, this. And second, I would like to see, we're missing 1 council member, and we may have another council member sitting here on the last meeting. Well, we are missing 1.
Right.
So, I would like to hear from everybody what they have to say about the mid-year review.
Additional, yes, Councilmember Palermo.
Thank you, Mayor Henry. So, so I was able to, again, with these printouts, it was helpful, the new requests, unfunded requests, administrative requests being next to each one, so I found that very helpful. What I'd like to also see at a mid-year budget amendment is, what I'd like to know is understanding the reasons, what makes each one urgent, and safety is absolutely a key example. I'll give the wrap stick example. I see that as a safety aspect, knowing that our first responders need to be able to be there, to be prepared. Another example is, I know I can't see where it is in here, another one was something dealt with a dance floor that you said was actually turning into a real safety issue. So that's what I'd like to see, just some clarification or some way to identify which ones are the urgent ones that absolutely need to go sooner than later, versus which are ones that could actually wait till a full budget year process to kind of be compared with all other requests. Is that a clear and reasonable request? I'd just be curious if you have any concerns with having that type of discussion.
I understand what you're saying. I guess the Word document that we provided has quite a bit of detail in there, and the bolded lines kind of are supposed to explain why that request is needed now. So I guess maybe we could always talk and find out exactly if there's something in particular that you're wanting to
Yeah,
know,
so actually that's actually a great point. And actually, to be honest, that's probably where I got the idea from. Okay. I noticed that on multiple, but not all. Okay. And so basically the way I was reading it was, okay, each one of those that had one of those bolds, I saw as justified for the mid-year, and where they didn't have that type of explanation is where I felt those should be not included, in my opinion, included until a full year. So in fact, I think you could argue you already did it. I just want to make sure you feel that's thorough and there's none that you felt were missing.
And I think the only ones that are in there that don't have a bold line are the ones that are administrative, like the recognition of additional revenue, that kind of stuff. But I believe that in terms of the actual projects or new equipment, each one that's not administrative has some explanation in there as to the need for now. But if you need additional information, we'll be glad to provide that.
Are you finished, Councilmember Palermo?
So I guess it goes, my last statement I'll have is, I guess it kind of goes back to, item number 14, that $105,000 request. Technically, there was the one bold line that mentions these projects are in various stages of completion, and we're waiting for funding to for authorization to complete. That's where I questioned if all of those were, kind of as urgent as crucial, and that's just an example I was seeing.
If it's helpful in this discussion, Jeff Leatherman, Director of Recreation, Parks, Historical, and Cultural Affairs. This request came out of the transition from the Tree Bank Fund projects when we substituted the East Roswell Park project for various projects that were included in the Tree Bank Fund. And originally, we had an unfunded request in this year's budget for $87,000 to complete the East Roswell Park project. In order to push that project forward in the Tree Bank Fund, we pulled these projects out and pushed them into this mid-year budget request. These projects are in various phases of construction. They can be picked up and put down at any time. So if this request in particular is problematic, this one could be delayed until the beginning of next fiscal cycle. We would miss the spring growing season and the spring planting season, so it essentially pushes these projects back about 9 to 12 months, depending on what we're trying to plant and construct at any given time.
That's helpful detail. Thank you.
Councilmember Wilsey.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Leatherman. Just a question. I see that the $105,000 is going to 4 different projects, and I assume fairly large ones. Could you maybe just give us a little more detail about each of the projects and how that budget breaks down, just approximately?
Good. I got my cheat sheet because I'm going to need it on that one. So Dobbs Drive is a landscape project, roughly about $5,000 associated with the entrance of Dobbs Drive, which that street has been changed. So it's the new street there, right on the corner of Oxbow and the old Dobbs there. Roswell Park area front entrance is approximately $30,000, and that's the opposite side of what we've been working on in the last couple of years. Groveway Community Park is about $15,000, and this is replacing some landscape trees and other areas at the top of the parking lot. We're in the process of redoing the driveway connection. We've had to remove some of the older vegetation and trees, and this replaces that section. City Hall is about $30,000, and that's the completion of the approved master plan associated with City Hall. And some signage associated with East Roswell Park that isn't allowed to be used as part of the Tree Bank Fund that we pushed into this project because that particular part of the project doesn't qualify within the funding limitations of the Tree Bank Fund.
Thank you for that additional information. That clears up some questions that I had, so I appreciate that.
Additional questions? Yes, Councilmember Tizer.
Thank you, Mayor. So there's a whole process that goes on here with meeting with the department heads. Excuse me. I believe y'all meet with the mayor on these items, and you come up at the end with the best list that y'all can come up with. It's very hard for me to judge whether these are the best of the best or not. One thing that would be helpful in the next budget cycle is you sent us the list of the unfunded items, and it would be helpful to get a little bit of context in the future for why did something not get funded from here? What caused that to not be emergent? So if you could do that maybe next year or next cycle, that would be very helpful.
Additional comments, questions from council? Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward and speak? Seeing no one approach, do I have a motion?
Yes, I don't know if, so we understood that it's not urgency, won't affect the operation of the city, and won't have any negative impact on public safety. So I would like to defer this item to the December 9th, which is the last meeting of the year, and so we can have at least 5 council members here to decide on the amendment, and then have opinion of at least 5 council members.
We've got a motion by Councilmember Zapata. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Palermo. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it's Zapata and Palermo in favor. Those opposed? Councilmember Tizer and Wilsey. Oh, that's a tie, isn't it? I get to vote.
Your math is exceptional.
I will vote in favor of deferring this till the last council meeting of the year. So that's 3 in favor, 2 opposed. Next on the agenda, we've got Environmental and Public Works Department. That's Councilmember Judy, who's out with an excused absence. And I'll ask Councilmember Palermo to call this item, please.
Item number 5, approval of a text amendment to the City of Roswell Code of Ordinances, Chapter 24, Utilities and Services, Section 24.2.5B. This is the first reading.
Mr. Halsey.
Ordinance to amend Chapter 24, Utilities and Services, Sections 24.2.5B, Garbage and Recycling Containers, and Section 24.2.7, Yard Waste, Preparation and Placement for Collection of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell. The affected section, subsection B, the additional language, containers, including curbside recycling bins, shall be removed from the curb no later than the end of the day of collection.
Mr. Skowski.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So very briefly, this one sentence was inadvertently removed from our code in January when we were doing several other amendments to our solid waste ordinance. That was not intended. It was inadvertent amendment and omission from the revisions that were made, so we're just putting it back in the code. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions from council? Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward and speak? Seeing no one approach, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Palermo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wilsey. All those in favor, please raise your hands, and it passes unanimously. Councilmember Wilsey.
Yes. Item number 6, approval of a text amendment to Article 13.1, offenses involving public peace and order, by adding Section 13.1.14, unmanned aircraft, in the City of Roswell Code of Ordinances. This is the first reading.
Mr. Halsey.
Ordinance to amend Article 13.1, offenses involving public peace and other of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell. This would add Section 13.1.14, unmanned aircraft. It defines unmanned aircraft. It excludes satellites, and it says that it's unlawful to operate an unmanned aircraft in violation of the Federal Aviation Administration restrictions. That's the essence of the proposed amendment.
Chief, would you come forward and give us a little recap on this?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This ordinance amendment will allow us to enforce the same laws that are in effect by the FAA for unmanned aerial vehicles, otherwise known as drones. As we discussed at the meeting 2 weeks ago, where we explained the need for this as public safety, the FAA can enforce these regulations, and this will merely allow the police department to enforce these regulations at public events and increase public safety when we have instances where drones are utilized in an unsafe manner, flying over crowds or the nature.
Thank you, Chief. Does council have any questions? Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward and speak? Seeing no one approach, do I have a motion?
A motion to approve item number 6.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Wilsey. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Tyser. All those in favor, please raise your hands, and it passes unanimously. Mr. Halsey. Thank you, gentlemen.
The last item on the agenda was a recommendation for closure. Legal recommends that that be withdrawn and deferred until December 9th.
Thank you, Mr. Halsey. We are adjourned.